Imagine having a superpower where nothing and no one could ruin your day. A skill that lets you stay calm with anyone, in any situation. Today, I'm sharing simple methods to help you develop that kind of emotional strength. Recently, my coworker made a small comment about my project being a bit basic. I spent hours upset, replaying his words, thinking of comebacks. By evening, I realized I'd wasted an entire day on something that wouldn't matter next week. After studying emotional reactions and testing these techniques myself, I've found that staying calm isn't about avoiding difficult people, it's about changing how we respond to them. In this video, I'll share 3 practical techniques that transform how you react when people push your buttons. These aren't complicated theories. They're simple tools you can use right away. By the end, you'll know how to handle difficult people without losing your cool. The goal isn't to feel nothing. It's to choose how you respond to what you feel. Number 1. Understanding anger as a secondary emotion. Our first technique is understanding that anger is rarely your true emotion. Think of anger like a warning light on your car's dashboard. It's not the problem itself, it's just alerting you that something else needs attention. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel that rush of anger, what's really happening? You might actually be feeling scared because they almost caused an accident. Or maybe you feel disrespected because they seem to ignore your safety. Psychologists call anger a secondary emotion. It shows up after another emotion has already happened. The primary emotions, the ones that come first, are usually things like fear, hurt, disappointment, or feeling disrespected. Here's a real example. My friend canceled our plans at the last minute for the 3rd time. I was angry. But looking deeper, I realized what I actually felt was hurt. I felt unimportant, like I wasn't a priority. The anger was just covering up that hurt. Here's how to use this. Next time you feel angry, pause and ask, what am I really feeling? Am I scared, hurt, embarrassed? Just naming the real emotion takes away some of anger's power. Let's try another example. Your boss criticizes your work in front of others. On the surface, you feel angry. But dig deeper and you might find you're actually afraid. Afraid of looking incompetent or losing respect. When you identify that fear as your primary emotion, you have more options. Instead of getting defensive, which anger pushes you to do, you might ask for specific feedback, which addresses the real fear. This technique moves you from reactive to responsive. When you know what's really driving your feelings, you can address the actual issue instead of just reacting to the surface anger. Try this. The next time someone bothers you, ask yourself, what's beneath my anger right now? This simple question can help you respond better in almost any situation. Now let's move to our second technique, which gives you a powerful way to step outside heated moments. Number 2. The observation deck technique. Our second technique is what I call the observation deck method. Imagine you're standing on the observation deck of a tall building, watching the busy street below. You can see everything happening, but you're not caught in the middle of it. This is exactly the mental position we want to create when someone is pushing our buttons. When you're in a heated moment, your brain goes into what scientists call fight or flight mode. Your emotions take over, making it nearly impossible to think clearly. But there's a simple way to interrupt this process. Here's how the observation deck method works. When you notice yourself getting angry or upset, imagine stepping back and watching the situation unfold as if you were an observer, not a participant. Let me give you an example. Last month, I was in a meeting when a coworker took credit for my idea. I felt that familiar surge of anger rising. But instead of reacting immediately, I mentally stepped back. I took a deep breath, relaxed my shoulders, and pictured myself watching the scene from across the room. From this mental observation deck, I noticed things I wouldn't have seen if I was caught up in my emotions. I saw that my coworker seemed nervous and maybe wasn't intentionally stealing my idea. I noticed my own tension, the way my hands were clenched. Most importantly, I could think about how to respond effectively instead of just reacting. You can create this mental distance in 3 simple steps. First, use a physical cue like taking a deep breath or slightly shifting your posture. Second, imagine watching yourself and the other person from a distance, as if you're observing a scene in a movie. Third, narrate what's happening in neutral terms, like, I notice I'm feeling tense, or I see they're raising their voice. This technique works because it activates the thinking part of your brain, which helps calm the emotional part. When you create this small gap between yourself and your reactions, you gain the power to choose your response. The beauty of the observation deck method is that you can use it anywhere, with anyone, and no one even needs to know you're doing it. Try it next time a family member says something that would normally set you off, or when a stranger cuts in line in front of you. Now let's move on to our third and final technique, which will completely change how you see other people's annoying behaviors. Number 3. Reframing others' behavior. Our third and final technique is what I call the everyone has a story framework. This simple idea can transform how you see other people's behavior, especially when it bothers you. Here's the core insight. People's actions usually have very little to do with you and everything to do with what's happening in their own lives. The rude cashier, the aggressive driver, the critical family member, their behavior reflects their inner struggles, not your worth. Let me share a quick story. Last week, I was at the grocery store when the cashier barely looked at me and tossed my items into bags. My first thought was, how rude. Why is she treating me this way? I felt myself getting irritated. Then I remembered this technique and asked myself, what could be happening in her life that has nothing to do with me? Maybe she just received bad news. Maybe she's worked a double shift and is exhausted. Maybe she's worried about a sick child at home. Just generating these alternative explanations immediately lowered my irritation. I smiled and wished her a better day. And surprisingly, her expression softened. Here's how to use this technique. Whenever someone's behavior triggers you, create 3 possible explanations that have nothing to do with you. I call this the 3 alternative narratives exercise. Take someone cutting you off in traffic. The standard reaction might be, what a jerk. They think they own the road. But your 3 alternative narratives could be, maybe they're rushing to the hospital, or perhaps they just got fired and aren't thinking clearly, or maybe they simply didn't see me. The power of this technique isn't about knowing the true reason. It's about reminding yourself that everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about. This doesn't mean you accept poor treatment, but it helps you respond from a place of understanding rather than reactivity. What's fascinating is that when you start practicing this regularly, you'll notice something strange. Difficult people become less difficult, not because they've changed, but because your perception of them has. This is the empathy paradox. Understanding why people act poorly actually makes their actions affect you less. Try this technique with someone who regularly bothers you, a coworker, neighbor, or family member. When they do something annoying, pause and ask, what might be happening in their life to cause this behavior? Then generate your 3 alternative narratives. With these 3 techniques, understanding anger as a secondary emotion, using the observation deck method, and reframing others' behavior, you now have powerful tools to stay calm in almost any situation with any person. That's it for today's video. If these techniques have been helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more content.